If you've at all been involved in the FPS space online recently, then you might know that there's been a whole lot of drama because of the Battlefield 6 beta. Not because of anything EA did. No. EA did so well that you'd be mistaken for thinking this game wasn't made by EA. I'm talking about the absolute witch hunt that ensued as a result of people seeing clips they deemed to be impossible to hit without cheats, led by a unique type of member in our space, the so-called hacker hunter. While these people think they know more than you and that they can tell an elite player from a cheater with no issues at all, that's almost how it never actually goes. Now that the dust on this whole thing is settled and the fallout is evidence, I want to dive into my thoughts on how hacker hunters got this whole thing so wrong. Is it a misunderstanding? A coping mechanism? There's a conspiracy right, and everyone actually is cheating. Spoiler alert, it's a conspiracy theory for a reason. But anyways, ladies, gentlemen, and degenerates, my name is Thrill, and let's dive headfirst into this mess of a situation. First things first, it's important that we talk about the people who were the main targets in this witch hunt. And it was mostly members of a niche part of the FPS world called the AIM community. Now, if you're wondering, well, what's the AIM community? It's simple. It's a small-ish group of people who spend tons of time trying to get the best aim they possibly can in FPS games. I'm talking hundreds, if not thousands of hours, all put into the simple art of moving your mouse better in games. And just off that description, the astute among you might already be starting to see the first flaw of this witch hunt, because their main claim was, no player could do things like this, which, as one of my friends so eloquently put it, is like a Little League player getting mad at Aaron Judge because he can hit a baseball 400 feet. The fact of everything in life, including FPS games, is that you're not going to get better if you never practice. So why are people getting angry at a group of people who have put in the time and effort to get as good as they have? I want you to ponder that question for a bit. Let's move on to another important point to mention, and that's the topic of the biggest thing these players are using to predict where their opponents are, and that's game sense. And you might be wondering, why make a whole section of video talking about game sense? Because so many people seem to confuse what was pretty clear game sense with walls or a radar hack, or somehow hacking into that guy's Neuralink and looking through his eyes to know where he is at all times. Okay, that one's a bit too extreme, but you get the picture, right? Now it's a callback to a point about these accusations being made about people putting a ton of time and effort into learning how to move their mouse of all things. Let's ask the same question here. Why should we expect someone with thousands of hours of FPS experience to not develop their game sense rather quickly when trying a new game for the first few hours of them playing? Think about it. Your game sense is built primarily on experiences you had in the past, in learning how to read said situations. So, why wouldn't game sense built up in another game transfer over quickly to a new title? Especially when both games share the same base mechanics or gameplay loops. If you're struggling to pick up the point I'm trying to make here, let me apply it to a real life example. Say you're driving your buddy's car. While it's a different make and model from your car, the transmission and engine are incredibly similar to your car. It has the same number of gears, and it gets around the same MPG that your car does. Would it be realistic of me to expect you to take days to learn to drive this car? No, absolutely not. So why on earth should we expect it to be any different here? Finally, before moving on to the part of the video discussing the reasonings why I believe this mindset came about in the first place, I want to touch just ever so briefly on the topic of playstyles. I'm seeing a very clear rift in the two different sides of the aisle on this debate in this area specifically. A lot of people who seem to think these incredibly talented players are cheating seem to prefer playing a slower, more supportive role. In a game like Battlefield, these people will usually be sticking to things like tanks, helicopters, and other vehicles that have an impact while focusing on revives and resupplies as opposed to kills. However, the other party, while focusing on many of the same things, forgoes the armored vehicles in favor of being mobile and fast playing infantry, relying on their mechanics to bail them out of gunfights, and wiping entire teams off points all by themselves. And this is where I think a lot of the misunderstanding is coming in, because so many of these players have gotten used to their style of play. This new, faster, more aggressive style they're now seeing, while beneficial to the team, is completely alien to them. So when they see this alien style of play, it's only natural they think something was up with the players playing this way. While I don't agree with the steps taken to reach this conclusion, I understand how they got there. Super fast, you guys. Before we get into the second part of the video, I just want to ask if you're enjoying the video, then please leave a like, and if you want to see more videos about all things FPS gaming, please consider subscribing and turning on the bell. Right now, almost 98% of you aren't subscribed, so I'd really appreciate it if some of you would help me reach my goal at the end of October, which is hit 1,000 subs. Right now, we're at around 750 subs, so we're 3/4 of the way there. Alright, that's enough self-promo, let's get back to the video. Alright. Now, let's talk about the reasons why this style of thinking became so mainstream over the past few years. The first of which is coping. Before I go any further, I want to be very clear. I'm not trying to use the word coping in a negative light right now, but there's really no other way to describe the thought process that led me to this conclusion. Let me explain. I've noticed more than once people talk about how back in games like Battlefield 4, there was none of this hero play. No solo clearing objectives, no insanely high kill death ratios. These people described it almost like a milsim, which if you go back and watch any Battlefield 4 video from back in the day, you will realize this is horribly inaccurate to how that game was played, which is what led me to realize something. These people don't remember seeing these kinds of players because these people were the hero players back in Battlefield 4's heyday. However, as time moved on and gaming became more of a mainstream hobby, the bar to keep up got pushed higher and higher, until eventually it was out of reach of a large part of this audience. There's more to support this theory too. These kinds of players will often trash esports and balancing, not realizing that those things have been around for decades and were in their budding years back when they used to be the top dogs. It's not them being unable to adapt to the times, it's selective memory, trying to convince themselves that back in the day, because balancing didn't happen as often, it didn't happen at all. And because esports weren't as globally popular, they didn't exist at all. I could give more examples of this specific phenomenon, but I think you get the picture. The people who are so adamant these players are cheating aren't malicious, they just aren't used to being on this end of the metaphorical beatdown. It's not coping in a traditional sense per se, but it definitely is a coping mechanism of sorts, a last attempt to cling on to any glory they may have had. To these people, because they can't do it, and they never could do this, it must be cheating. Except that back in the day, they were at the level the new age of insane players is now. The requirements to be at that level just got pushed out of reach by games becoming more mainstream. The second reason these kinds of hacker hunters have become so prevalent over the past few years, in my opinion, is due to the amount of bad anti-cheats now in the market. I don't think I need to explain where I'm going with this one. We've all seen the clips of the insane rage cheaters in every single game thanks to the addition of mass market anti-cheats in almost every single game for the past couple decades. It's gotten so bad that some streamers and professional players have genuinely been caught cheating either live on stream or at a tournament. So, why should we be surprised when some people, seeing it become this rampant, think they see patterns between a cheater and a good player and decide to call it out? I mean, hell, there's a literal 20,000 person subreddit dedicated to just these kinds of posts. And now that they put that in the video, I have to of course say, do not go harass anybody. Just because they're posting people who aren't cheating and claiming nonstop that they are doesn't mean you go harass them. Alright? Alright. But to these people, they've convinced themselves that if they can sniff out the cheaters, maybe then the problem will somehow get better. The final reasoning, and perhaps the most malicious, is that there truly are bad actors who seek to use these people's talent in order to prop themselves up and make a name for themselves as some sort of vigilante. Or in other cases, just don't like the person they're accusing for a number of reasons. Could be old beef, could be politics related, could be literally anything. But these people see a chance to either rip down a talented player, or gain from another's talent and begin to make accusations. An amazing example of this kind of hacker hunter would be Call of Shame, who made a career making videos which could only be described as the lowest of AI slop, insisting that several prominent creators in the Call of Duty scene and other FPS scenes were cheating, even going as far as to claim that he, and I'm not joking right now, had insiders at the FBI who were helping him catch cheaters. Can't make this shit up, man. But he became so big that it took Carl Jost making an expose on him for him to finally stop witch hunting people. And there's hundreds more channels like this. But for the sake of not giving them any of the attention they don't deserve, I'm not going to be naming any of them, and I'll ask that you don't either. But with all that out of the way, that's just about it for today's video. If you liked it, leave a like and consider subscribing. Again, my goal is at 1,000 subs by the end of October, so any support in that goal is greatly appreciated. Anyways, ladies, gentlemen, and degenerates, my name is Thrill, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.